All right, welcome to our explainer. Today, we're jumping headfirst into a really deep and fascinating web of codes, numbers, and history, all coming from a unique set of source materials. We're going to do exactly what the title says, connect the dots on something they call the AEC model. Let's get right into it.
So, just start with this question. What if numbers weren't just for counting things? What if they held a hidden code, a kind of secret language that connects ancient history, scripture, and even the birth date of one specific person? That's the core mystery these documents ask us to explore.
And according to these sources, the story begins with this number, 828. Think of it like a numerical signature or a breadcrumb trail that they claim appears over and over again in ancient texts and in modern math, tying this whole thing together. Okay, so check this out. This is where the sources claim to build a bridge between the ancient and the modern. On one hand, you have Strong's Concordance, a well-known index of the Bible. In it, the number 828 points directly to Emperor Augustus, the Roman emperor whose census is the whole reason the story of Christ's birth takes place in Bethlehem. Then, on the other hand, you have a totally modern calculation. The sources say you take the full birth date and time of a man named Alex Enrique Campaign. That's May 5th, 1972, at 1:40 a.m., which becomes the number 551972-140. And when you divide that by 666, the result starts with that exact same number, 828. But it doesn't stop there. If you look at that same calculation, the very next three digits are 786. Now, the sources say that in geometria, which we'll get to in a sec, 786 is the value of phrases like Gemini Messiah and the Golden Key. What's really emphasized is that this isn't a one-off. A second, simpler calculation using just the birth date, 551972 without the time, divided by 666, also produces both 828 and 786 right there in the result. The documents also point to phrases around the birth date, like May of May or AEC May 5. They even note that other dates, like May 14th, can be reduced to 5, since 1 plus 4 is 5. For the model, the whole point is that these key numbers keep showing up, locked together in more than one way.
So you're probably asking, how in the world are these connections being made, right? To really get the logic they're using, we have to look at the main tool they use for all this decoding. It's kind of like a linguistic and mathematical decoder ring. And that decoder ring is called gematria. It's a really ancient system, and the core idea is simple. Letters aren't just for making sounds. They also have a numerical value. So by adding up the values of words or even whole phrases, practitioners of this system believe they can find these hidden connections and meanings that you'd never see just by reading the text. And here's a super basic look at how it works. In what's called simple gematria, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, all the way to 26. Easy enough. But there are other systems like English gematria where the values go up in multiples of 6. The system might change, but the principle is always the same. You can translate language into numbers to find what the sources call a divine blueprint.
Okay, so now that we've got the decoder ring, let's see how the source material actually uses it to connect these codes directly to the central figure of this whole model, Alex Enrique Campaign.
Now, this is presented as a cornerstone piece of evidence in the source material. What they're claiming here is that if you take the full name Alex Enrique Campaign and calculate its value using two different gematria systems, you get the numbers 1128 and 188. And, incredibly, they say that the Hebrew title Yeshua HaMashiach Kin, which translates to Jesus the Messiah Kin, calculates to those exact same two numbers.
And it doesn't just stop there. The sources add another layer of meaning to the numbers themselves. They say that 1128, if you add the digits up, reduces to 3, which they link to the Trinity. And 188 reduces down to 8, a number the documents connect to the idea of resurrection and to Jesus Christ.
And just to give you a sense of the scale of these claims, the documents present this. Here, they're saying that the gematria value of the entire English alphabet, the very building blocks of our language, is exactly the same as the value of the phrase Alex Campaign, the Second Coming of Christ. It's presented as evidence that this code isn't just in certain names, but is woven into the fabric of language itself.
So all these numbers and phrases we've looked at, they aren't just presented as random, isolated facts. They're all pieces of a much bigger puzzle, a theoretical framework that the sources call the AEC model. So let's zoom out for a second and look at the whole picture they're trying to paint. At its heart, the AEC model tries to bring together science, math, and theology. It's all built on these core principles you see here. The idea that our consciousness actually shapes reality, that everything is just vibration, and that the universe is intelligently designed. And this is the crucial part. The model claims this design isn't something you just have to believe in on faith. It's something that can be decoded and proven using the very tools we've been talking about, like math and gematria. So how could a code actually affect the real world? Well, the model borrows an idea that sounds a bit like quantum physics. They use this analogy of a dream car, real car. The idea is that consciousness can take a world of possibilities, the dream, and collapse it into one single physical reality, the car. The sources suggest that this divine code works in a similar way, making a specific designed outcome become real out of all the infinite possibilities. Okay, so we've seen the numbers, we've seen the gematria method, and we've looked at the big picture theory. You have to be wondering, where is all of this going? Well, we've arrived at the central claim, the one extraordinary conclusion that all of this evidence is apparently built to support. When you get right down to it, all of these gematria links, these numerical signatures, and this whole theoretical framework are being presented for one single purpose: to serve as what the source material calls irrefutable mathematical proof for the reality of reincarnation. And it's not just reincarnation in general. The sources get very, very specific with this exact phrase. They assert that all the data points directly to a reincarnational link between Alex E. Campin and Jesus Christ, and that this isn't just a personal matter, it has implications for every single one of us. I mean, this is a lot to take in, and it all leads to maybe the most important question of all. So what? Why does any of this matter? What, according to these sources, is the ultimate purpose of revealing this complex system? Thematic guidance for that question comes from a concept in Kabbalistic tradition, Aleph, Nun, Yod. It's one of the 72 names of God, and its meaning is beautifully simple: to connect the dots. The entire AEC model is basically framed as an exercise in doing just that, linking together what seems like random information to finally see a grand, hidden design, to see the bigger picture. And what is that bigger picture? Well, according to the documents, it's this: that the second coming isn't some far-off future event, but a present-day reality you can actually verify with math. That the Bible is a living code that's being fulfilled right now. And really, it's all presented as a wake-up call for all of humanity to see reality in a new way, a reality where consciousness is the foundation of everything. So that leaves us right here with this fundamental question. Are we looking at an incredibly elaborate code, a message that was deliberately hidden in our language, in our math, and across time? Or is this all just a series of really profound but ultimately random coincidences? The sources have presented their case by connecting the dots. What it all means in the end, well, that's for you to decide.